All right, we are back. MPW Digital Postgame Show here with you. I'm sorry for all that. I still am a little concerned that if we try to take calls, it is going to block the account. But I promise we will get that fixed moving forward. If anything, it's taught us a lesson, and we'll do something else and work it out and be better moving forward. But I have Neil McCready on the line. I think you'll be able to hear him in a minute. I'm going to do that real quickly because we have a new stream. We are doing this because of our friends at DeadSoxy. So let me tell you again about them. If you want to grab some free team color socks for yourself, or check out some holiday gifts off your list this week, our friends at DeadSoxy are doing a buy one get one free sale on sock bundles. It means you buy an 8-pair bundle of any of the premium dress socks, casual socks, or no shows. Get that second 8-pair bundle for free. So since you only get one BOGO per purchase, they're going to let you game the system. They're going to let you complete separate transactions for each BOGO bundle that you want. So if you got a whole family of fans, game the system with multiple transactions to cover everyone. Use the code RebelGrove at checkout, and you've got yourself a free bundle of your new favorite socks. As always, stay soxy. So take care of that. Great socks. I'm sure Neil and I probably both have them on right now. And yeah, take care of some holiday shoppers. So we are here, Mississippi State 24, Ole Miss 22. Weird game tonight. We'll talk about that a little bit. Kiffin's press conference, obviously, more important than that. So, Neil, you were just telling me a second ago that you saw a beer you had never had.
Yeah, natural light. It's not bad.
So
Anything
Neil,
would be good right about this moment.
I say Neil is having a natural light. So that's what he said. I mean that is like the ultimate college beer that you just found it hanging around the stadium is really interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm a resourceful guy sometimes, Parham. So we do what we have to do. Crazy night, a game that didn't go exactly the way I thought it would, and a press conference that went the complete opposite direction of the way I thought it would go, to the point that I'll admit I'm thoroughly confused.
Yeah, so let's go there. That's the more important thing at the moment. We can talk some game. We're gonna here just for an idea of what's going on. I'm gonna talk to Neil for a while. We're gonna get enough to give you guys a podcast, at least partial a podcast, and then I will try to take some calls after that. But there's no guarantee because of that whole blockage thing. So we just gotta kind of see where things are moving from there. But I am gonna talk to Neil a little bit. So that's where it's at. I mean, let's start with Kiffin. I saw your post on the message board, but for everybody that's in the stream, you ask the question. I guess take me through it. What kind of mood was he in? Whether national media there, set the scene for us, then tell us what happened.
Sure. So he came in. It took a while for him to get in there. He talked about being disappointed for the seniors. He was really hung up on an officiating call, two of them actually. One I didn't see live because I was on my way down from the press box to the fields. I missed it when this happened. There was an inadvertent whistle
There
play,
was.
and apparently
Mm-hmm.
he was real hung up on that. And then at the end, after Ole Miss had scored and they were going to go for two to tie the game with a little over a minute to go, he felt like the officials, once they sat the ball down, they weren't supposed to allow substitutions, and they did, and so he had to call timeout. And then they came out in a different set. Arnett, the defensive coordinator, had something that they didn't like their matchup with that, so they called timeout again. So he used two timeouts, and then ultimately didn't get the 2-point conversion. So he was pretty hung up on the officiating. And then finally, it was a long opening statement. And then they opened it up for questions. I had the mic. I just simply said, Lane, now that the regular season is over, do you anticipate being Ole Miss's coach next year? And I'll be honest, I expected a lot of words. I didn't get a lot of words. I got 3 words. Yes, I do. And he then said, I feel like I was being deposed or something along those lines. And he got some questions about whether this time had been a distraction. And then Blake Toppmeyer with USA Today ultimately asked him, let me follow up on the original question. If you're offered the Auburn job, do you still anticipate being the coach at Ole Miss next season? And he said, with no qualification, yes, I do. He was asked if he had signed the contract. He said that he didn't understand why that was such a big deal, that he's signed 3 contracts here before. What difference did it make when he signed the 4th one, which was kind of odd. He took some shots at John Sokoloff, said that it was John's story that forced him to address this on Tuesday and Wednesday. He questioned the veracity of that story. He was critical of John, almost in a quasi-personal way. Said he made John famous.
A repeat comment from Red Talk the other night.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then he got some questions about the game, about play calling, stuff like that. But, I mean, to me, the story tonight was and is and remains Lane Kiffin. And you and I talked about this all day. I think there was a lot of rumbling yesterday, late last night, into the day that, hey, maybe Ole Miss would make some sort of an announcement this afternoon. There was even the rumors about the whole Jumbotron thing. I never really bought that. But, when 6 o'clock came and went, I thought the pendulum swung toward him leaving. That certainly was the sentiment of a lot of people, frankly, around the program, that it looked like he was leaving. I had talked to someone inside the program earlier today who said, I think he's staying. I was surprised. And then this tonight, look, football coaches do this kind of stuff all the time where they say they anticipate being the coach and then gets a specific question about another school and then ultimately leave anyway. But it will be an awfully weird look if he does. Like I said, as I'm just talking through this, the thought that keeps going through my mind is I'm kind of confused. I don't know why, if you're Lane Kiffin and you're not taking the Auburn job, I don't know why you would put yourself and your program through what he did over the last certainly 2 weeks, certainly last 7 to 8 days. And it very clearly affected his football team. And this is a team that was 7-0 to start the season, and they finished 8-4, 4-4 in the SEC. They finished with a real thud to whimper. They've lost momentum. They will fall out of the rankings. This was a bit of a disastrous November, and so much of it feels self-inflicted, frankly. I don't know that it's all that. And the schedule obviously got harder. Alabama at Arkansas, a scrappy Mississippi State team that really wanted this game tonight. But some of this really feels self-inflicted.
So let's go through this a little bit. I've got 10 different things, so I'm trying to organize it in my head to some extent. And the big picture is, again, it's 2 questions. He both said, yes, I do to them, meaning he, even to the point of if Auburn offers, he will stay. That is the one job that he's been tied to for a while now. So my question is, let's take that at its word. And
okay.
Yeah, I've got a couple different things. I'm trying to decide which way to go because I think one is a longer answer than the other one. Let's do this. Should he still take a job with Auburn? It becomes what has been a week of really strange looks. Although I told you, it's the one benefit of the doubt. Not really the benefit of the doubt. It's the one public thing because most people are not as in tune to this as a select few who are fanatics and following every word, is that Lane Kiffin at no point publicly said he was taking another job. Lane Kiffin at no point really addressed it other than to kind of laugh it off and say it wasn't true or whatever he did on Monday night, and it was emotional and it was over the top. But it's still, from a connotation standpoint, signaled that he was not going anywhere with what he took there. So should he go ahead and take that Auburn job at some point or be Auburn's next coach? It's it's one of the stranger things I've ever seen in college football. And I'm going to get off this quickly because that doesn't feel like what's happening. But just for full circular here as we're doing this, it really would be really freaking strange and be an eyesore on the rest of his career as a football coach.
It
Right?
would be yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, like if the news were to break in the next 48 hours that Lane Kiffin's the next coach at Auburn, after what he said just then, I don't know how anyone could ever take anything that he said at face value ever again. He said all of that with his 8th grade son sitting 10 feet away from him. He even talked at one point to Knox during the press conference. It was a night where Knox was here. There's some pictures and video of Knox with the fire extinguisher after the touchdown that put Ole Miss ahead 16-7. And, Lane was smiling as he saw his son having fun with his team. And I mean, it was kind of a wholesome moment. And then you have these questions, and if he answers them and it turns out those answers were false. Because look, if Lane Kiffin's going to be the coach at Auburn, he knows as of this moment that that's at a very minimum, he knows that's at least a distinct possibility.
Sure.
This isn't going to be something that comes out of the blue late tonight or tomorrow where it's, oh my gosh, Auburn's offering me a job, I must now reconsider. No, come on. And then he got asked specifically about Auburn. So,
yeah, that's the one that gets me because otherwise, whatever. But that's the one that I'm kind of focused on here.
Yeah, so that painted him into that corner to the point where, yes, if he takes the job at Auburn, he essentially lied. And like you said, and you've been pointing this out for a while. And at first I was like, no, I don't know that you're right, Chase. And the more that I've thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I guess you kind of are. I mean, he has answered every question in such a way that he can, if he stays here, he can say, look, I mean, I never said I was leaving. I never lied. I never gave any indication that I was doing anything different. It was a media, not narrative, because it's much more than a media narrative. You can't get 100 media people or more to march to the same beat without something there. There's been something there. Let's be real.
Sure.
But I guess that answers the question, right? I mean, I don't know how right now, without really damaging his credibility and his word, he could go take the job now. And this is not meant as a knock at Lane. This is just football coaches. I'm still not shocked at all if he ends up the Auburn coaching in the next 48 hours. But he poured a lot of cold water on that tonight.
Yeah, because there were a lot of answers that we at least give you some level of doubt. That's not one.
There was nothing ambiguous about his answer. He said, "Yes, I do." Period.
And yeah,
you anticipate being the coach? Yes, I do. I mean,
yeah, and as Justin says in the stream, I'm confused. He keeps saying he's not leaving. Why does everybody keep saying he's leaving? Yeah, I'm quickly getting this side out simply because of the actions that have happened to this point. I'm agreeing with you that
here's the thing. Here's the reason that there's confusion. Let's be real. The reason that there's confusion is that this got going the way that it got going. Ole Miss came in a week ago today and offered him a significant contract, a contract that is at least 4 years for $36 million and is really more like 6 years for $54 million, with all but $800,000 of it guaranteed. It's a significant contract. So if you know you're staying at Ole Miss, you know you're not leaving, you know the job's not done, whatever the case may be, you do what Mark Stoops did at Kentucky and you sign it. Y'all have a press conference. You announce it. You eliminate that distraction from your team, from your recruiting efforts, from what's coming up in the portal, from all of that stuff. You eliminate that. He did not do anything to eliminate that. So therefore, it's fed the speculation that, no, this Auburn thing is really, really real. And as of today, I mean, look at Auburn media. Even I haven't looked at it in the last 30 minutes, but I'm guessing that they're not completely backing away from it. I mean, if you did a gauge on Auburn media today, on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, you would have come with the conclusion that no, most people still believe that it's Lane Kiffin at Auburn. So he could have eliminated that by signing the deal. He didn't sign the deal, and it begs the question, well, why not? I mean, if you knew you were staying and they offered you $9 million a year, which is, $1.5 million a year more than he's making now on a guaranteed contract. And there was questions about was he happy with NIL, and he told them that they needed $5 million a year in NIL, and they've doubled that in the course of this time. And they're now over $10 million in NIL. He was asked about NIL tonight. He said it was good, whatever. But, all of those things where one would think that if you were pleased with it to the point that you didn't want to go anywhere, that you'd sign the extension while it was on the table. And he didn't. And as of tonight, based on his answers, he still hasn't. So that's what causes the confusion, and that's what feeds the idea that no, ultimately he's going to leave, because he hasn't done the one thing that would at least this one time stop him. And
well,
so what he's done instead,
yeah, I mean, and it's not, I'm seeing on the stream here. To me, it's not even about I'm paying attention. To me, it's not even about the contract. It's about there was so many opportunities to just tell his team, even last night, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving unless something changes. I'm not leaving. I'm going to be the coach next year.
right,
That's why. I mean, it's,
right.
he told people in the administration, hey, there's percentages here that I'm back. That wasn't 100. It was those type of reasons. I mean, yeah, there's lots of reasons why this thing got here. It was what was being offered. It was the way he reacted to everything throughout the thing, even though, because there just seemed to be qualifiers and outs and everything. But so let's take it the other way, because yeah, we can, if he leaves, we're going to do another show. We'll have ability to talk about all the different ramifications of that in a ton of different ways. So let's go the other way. He remains. He's Ole Miss's coach, and as you said, I mean, Ole Miss puts up over $10 million in its collective right now. They announced that. They've become very public with that. I know of another very, very major national corporate partner that's going to be coming out the next few days. They have had a ton more corporate stuff. Ole Miss has made it public with that contract that you mentioned for Lane Kiffin that's $9 million a year. Mostly, I would assume, almost fully guaranteed. I mean, that puts you in the top 10 in the country from a salary standpoint. There is such very obvious investment for Ole Miss to that point. Ben, don't do the source thing. I will literally block you out of the thing. It's just not true. And I'm defensive and I'm tired, and I will kick you out of the stream for that. It's just not true.
What is the source?
Well, just doing the sources suck, and that's why it remains. It's just as I told Neil earlier today, you're seeing the tip of an iceberg that has so much glacier below it on the things that we know and have talked about and done.
Look, if you believe that all media covers Auburn, media that covers Ole Miss, media that covers the Southeast, media that covers nationally, if you think they all made this up and created this narrative and somehow willed this story into semi-existence, you are an absolute imbecile, and you don't need to be outside by yourself.
So, okay, I guess here's the question to that. Is Ole Miss has shown that it has moved up into this pecking order to this extent from a Lane standpoint, because he hasn't necessarily, again, he had lied. He told the truth, as you said a minute ago. He did all these things. Where do you feel like his ability is right now just inside the Ole Miss program? A guy that, as I mentioned earlier, has had godlike status. I mean, somebody who couldn't do any wrong whatsoever. Where does that stand? Where do you feel like that's fallen, or what kind of needs to happen moving forward?
Well, on like a 1 to 100 capital scale, like how much capital do you have with the fan base? Lane Kiffin 2 weeks ago was somewhere between 95 and 100. I mean, a popularity rating was just off the charts, even after the loss to Alabama. But as that story unfolded and last kind of Thursday happened, and the loss in Fayetteville and his answers, and then Monday and the Tuesday, I mean, in 2 weeks, he's gone from 100 to, trying not to be hyperbolic here, with people who are fans enough to be on message boards, he's dropped into the teens.
You think it's that
general fan. Oh, there's no question. And with the general fans, my guess is he's dropped into the 50s. And that's a precipitous drop. And now he finishes the season with 4 losses in the last 5 games. The only win after Auburn was a narrow win against the Texas A&M team that if it loses to LSU on Saturday will be 1-7 in the SEC. His team doesn't look inspired in their last 2 games. There were some real questionable coaching decisions. The red zone offense remains a problem. Their second half offense thing happened again. They scored on that last drive, but before that, they basically had been anemic offensively in the second half. Look, I mean, he lost a ton of capital. How much of that is fair or unfair? I don't know, right? I mean, I still maintain that he's been a guy, as you've said many times, he's a guy who believes that all attention is good attention.
Yeah.
And all publicity is good publicity. And maybe he's learned a lesson from this. I will say this, moving forward for Lane Kiffin, if Lane's going to have a long, successful tenure at Ole Miss, at a minimum, the one thing he must take from this is that next year, if and when his name starts popping up for another job, if he doesn't want that job, he's got to nip it publicly in the bud. And is that fair to him? Maybe not. But, you know what they say about fairness. Not everything's fair. So
yeah, sure.
He's going to have to shoot that down publicly next time. Because he didn't do it this time. And Chase, it hurt him. And then literally, it stuck around for so long that literally after I sat there, I was in the very front row, middle seat, looking straight at him, eye contact. And I don't know whether I believe him. And that's not fair to him. But I've covered this for so long, I guess, that I'm kind of jaded. And I wonder why you would let this go this far if there was no chance that you were going to take that job.
Yeah, Keith's not going to pull the offer. He's going to have that contract offer to sign moving forward. I mean, they are going to do that. Keith,
of course.
Keith knew when he gave him the offer that there was a possibility that he would be doing that with an 8-4 situation. Yeah, I mean, 100%.
Yeah, and if you're Keith Carter, the one conversation you have to have with Lane tomorrow, in the event that Lane is saying, "Hey, I'm staying. We're going to announce a contract extension." Whatever the case may be, I'm sure it's a press release at this point. There's no reason to have a press gathering on Friday. If you're going to put that out, the one thing if you're Keith Carter, you have to say to Lane Kiffin, "Hey, we can't do it like this again. We can't lose momentum with the fan base again like this. It's too hard to get fans to come to games. They came tonight, despite all the rumors. Despite the bad weather, it got cold, it obviously rained, it was wet. Thanksgiving Day. They came today. They filled up the stadium. The student section was jam-packed. The only section that was empty was the allotment of tickets to go to Mississippi State people. As you've said many times, visiting fans just don't travel in this series, especially State here. And Ole Miss doesn't travel great to start with either. It's just that kind of rivalry. They've done everything. It's hard to get people to come. There's alternatives. We've talked about this 1,000 times. You can stay home and watch it in the comfort of your living room, with a lot cheaper. You don't have to pay to park. All of these things, right? So you don't want to do things that alienate fans. And the rumor mill thing, it alienates fans. And maybe he'll get the benefit of the doubt this time. I don't think you will again. And I think if you're Keith, that's the conversation you have to have with Lane in the event that that's the conversation that they have presumably tomorrow. Because, look, if Lane's staying, they got to hit the road here in the next few days recruiting. They've got to get ready for the portal. I think Lane has some coaching staff decisions he has to start contemplating. I mean, there's work to be done if he's going to be the Ole Miss coach. And if I'm Keith Carter tomorrow, I've got to look Lane Kiffin in the eye and go, are we playing semantic games? Are you leaving? Because if you're leaving, I need you to leave today. And if you're not leaving, I need you to buckle down today. Because if we're going to pay you top 10 money, the truth is you expect top 10 results. And what they got in the last 2 weeks of the season, I'm not going to hold the LSU loss against them. I'm not going to hold the Alabama loss against them. But a blowout loss in Arkansas, and yes, it was a blowout, and a loss to a Mississippi State team that's kind of one-dimensional at home. You lose the Egg Bowl at home, and if Will Rogers doesn't fumble, it's a 2-touchdown game. You know what I mean? I mean, Ole Miss was fighting to get back in it. When you lose those kind of games, those are not top 10 results. They're not going to be in the top 25 on Sunday afternoon when the poll comes out. Those are not top 10 results, and you're about to sign a contract that's going to give you a top 10 salary. You're expected to produce results that are commensurate with that level of buy-in from the administration, from the fans.
Yeah, and it went from a deal, Lane Kiffin has been this positive lightning rod for Ole Miss since the day that he was hired. It's been he's elevated their status. He's been a splash. He has been always in the news, and mostly for positive reasons, as their record went from 5-5 to 10-2 in the regular season last year. To that, now they got up into the top 10 of the country for a while before this 1-4 stretch to end the year, and he was one of you guys. He was all these different things. And we knew that, Lane's probably not staying forever. You always knew there was whatever. But this is sort of the coaching version of quiet part out loud. That now the front line feels like, again, whatever happened over this last week, whether he was trying to play some long con and generate excitement and screwed up from a PR standpoint, whether he was just trying to get an Auburn offer so he could turn them down, whether he was undecided and his kids made a difference. I don't know. Whatever the reason is that he has stayed as the Ole Miss head coach at this point, it has affected him from a PR standpoint that he now is just sort of seen as a mercenary and a year-over-year thing and no longer feels like one of them, talking about Ole Miss people. You know what I mean, Neil? It almost somehow went to an outsider status. And now, is it correctable? 100%. It's an emotional sport. It's up to staff members and PR people and all this stuff to kind of help him do this. It's up to him to do it in certain ways. If he signs a big portal class and they're ranked in the preseason and they keep all their players through the portal and everything kind of runs efficiently through the offseason, scars get healed, things change. I mean, you can correct a lot of this stuff if he's still the coach. But a lot of it right now is more just they've got to get better. I mean, they just, frankly, it's a roster that, I mean, I'll do the snap counts tomorrow or the next day for this game, but a couple weeks ago, they played 14, 15 players on offense. It is not an overly deep team. They've had a lot of transfer portal guys that haven't hit the way that they thought they were going to hit. It's got a lot of work to do from that standpoint because you said it. It's such an interesting dynamic because Mark Stoops signs this $8.6 million contract at Kentucky, and it locks him in. And Kentucky had not really won before, and they wanted to make sure they kept their guy that's done a good job in Lexington. But Kentucky's not necessarily expecting top 10, top 12 results from Mark Stoops. They're expecting competitiveness. They're trying to be good at football, not great at football. It feels like with the NIL possibilities there for Ole Miss, or realities, because they have more than 10 point whatever it is now and paying that thing, that's not what this feels like. This feels like Keith Carter and Walker Jones and everything combined with this program. This feels like, hey, we're paying you here, but we are absolutely expecting, once this playoff thing changed, for you to be in the playoff conversation pretty much every season.
Yeah, Kentucky's a little more invested in basketball. No, you're right. Kentucky's a little more invested in basketball NIL than Ole Miss.
Yeah, sure.
And so, you're putting $10 million plus into just football. That should help you put together a pretty nice roster. He's going to have, I think he's going to have some issues in the portal that he didn't have a year ago. And that, there were some guys that I think probably had some promises made that those promises weren't fulfilled, and that might work against them a little bit. But no, look, can he overcome this? Of course. It's going to take a little nuance. It's going to take some time. It's going to take winning. And it's going to take the next time that something comes up, one of these jobs, whether it's whatever the next Auburn, whatever that is, he has to shoot it down. He can't. The fans aren't going to go through it again with him. I can tell you that. You can gauge our board. I mean, this guy was untouchable a month ago. Untouchable. And now I think if you were to poll our message board, the majority of people want him to leave. Now, will that go away? Sure. But this is not handled well. There's no way around that. And there will be people that will be well, what was he supposed to do? It got too loud. It got too hot. And then, look, Chris, here's where it started. Chris Lowe's story, his series of tweets, his appearance on Ryan Brown's show, Jim Dunaway's show, and then the tweet subsequently after that on last Wednesday. I mean, I think we all know who Chris's source was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was Lane talking about Lane's program. And then, here's the thing with Lane and Ole Miss and the fans, and like you said, Lane got here 3 years ago, and since then, Ole Miss has given him everything he's asked for. Autonomy. They've left him alone. They've made him the brand. They've made him the face of the program. They've given him more money. They've given him more money for analysts, for resources. They've done whatever he wanted to do with uniforms. Hell, they took his dog and made him the mascot. I mean, they've done everything you could possibly do for him. And at some point, I think they're waiting for Lane. And I wrote this a couple weeks ago, but they're waiting for Lane to love them back. And if Lane wants to get back and I don't know that Lane cares, but if he wants to get back in the good graces, if that matters to him, getting his popularity back, getting people to view him again as one of their own and not a mercenary, and I think you described that perfectly, I think Lane's going to have to be more human with the fans. And I don't think he's very good at that at all. I don't think that comes natural to him at all. The people, if indeed he's staying at Ole Miss and he wants to stay at Ole Miss and he's not even considering Auburn, if that set of facts is true, the people who are around him advising him on how to handle this really failed him.
As you said, Ole Miss fans would grow tired of this next season. It's been 3 for 3 to this point. I mean, you look at year one, and there was whatever dalliance with Auburn when they hired Brian Harsin. You look at last year where in hindsight, it appears that he was never a primary candidate, but there was interest in LSU and Florida and some other jobs.
Miami, the Vikings.
Yeah, of course, Miami. Yeah, I guess, NFL is whatever. But when you say that, hey, next year can't be like this again, he's got to win. I mean, here's the deal, too, and this is two different thoughts. One is if Ole Miss goes 7-5, nobody's interested in Lane Kiffin the way they would be at 10-2. That's a whole different deal because, we use this on, and I've got a thought. So say when I get done with this, if I forget, I want to mention like tier of jobs, and we'll get to that in a second. But Lane has elevated Ole Miss as a program into a spot in short order where they are expected to win games and they're expected to be nationally and conference-wide competitive to where he no longer really even gains attention for on-the-field things unless they're at least 9-3. I mean, 8-4 is going to, for the first time since midway through 2020, take Ole Miss out of the conversation, at least to the level that it was. Not all the way, anything like that, but to some extent, where his expectation has changed just because of what he's done to the program. So Lane is facing his own personal deal where the number of jobs that are willing to pay Lane Kiffin more money than he is making at Ole Miss, they require him to win a lot of games at Ole Miss to even be candidates at that point. It just kind of, it is what it is. he's built his own monster in a short order the way Mike did, but totally different. You know what I mean? I mean, it's the same kind of principle. And what I was getting at to that is jobs where he does not lose complete capital from Ole Miss fans to play this game again to whatever extent. It's a really small list, and I'm not sure it's anything but NFL and maybe Alabama.
No, I agree with that. I'm trying to get on the elevator, so hang with me. No, I agree with that completely. I don't think that he. It's an interesting, like you said, it's an interesting spot because look, if he's going to make $9 million a year, the only places that he could go to make more money than that are the handful of blue blood college jobs in the NFL. I mean, no one's gonna hold it against. But for Lane to get one of those jobs from this point forward, he'll have to continue to win at a level bigger than what he won this year. I mean, he'll have to get back to 9-3, 10-2 on a consistent basis. Lane Kiffin's not getting the Alabama job. The only way Lane Kiffin's ever getting the Alabama job is if he turns Ole Miss into a national title contender.
Oh, sure.
That's it. They're not going to touch him otherwise. The other places, Texas A&M, Texas, those kind of places that have, unlimited resources and can do whatever they want to do. Who knows, right? But I'm just literally, as we talk through this, what's interesting to me is I just cannot let myself completely go with, oh yeah, this is over. I mean, a part of me thinks, I don't know that this is over. I mean, it was
and that's
allowed
only
to go on
simply because of what you know, though. It's really not
It
even
is,
anything
because
from
of what I
Lane.
know.
It's everything beyond that.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. It's one of those things where you talk to so many people and you work it so hard that you think this is what's going to happen, and then when it appears that maybe it doesn't, you're kind of a little baffled. But I just go back to from this point forward, if he's going, I think he has to embrace the job, the people, that kind of thing in a way that he hasn't yet, in a way that frankly he's not comfortable with. I think that's just something that he's going to have to do to kind of win back the capital and be the guy again. I just don't think, as of today, I don't think fans are going to look at him the same way, because I don't think you tricked anybody. I think the knowledgeable fan looks at this and goes, nobody would have done this to himself. This was real, and something happened. And maybe it was family. And if that's the case, he ought to talk about that. The problem is, as you've said, when you admit, hey, I was really looking at another job, boy, that can work against you in recruiting.
Yes. Yeah, you just can't come out publicly and go, hey, Auburn's a great spot. Wow, I was almost headed over there. Wow. Ooh, boy.
But it's already kind of working against him in recruiting. So, I mean, somebody's got their work cut out for him from a PR standpoint.
What do you think Auburn does?
And maybe I have no idea. I mean, look, last night I heard from people over there.
11:49 p.m., by the way, guys, on Thursday, November the 24th. Go ahead.
I had heard that things might be trending towards Hugh Freeze. I heard from a couple of people that Freeze was kind of behind, and not Freeze himself probably, but people connected to Freeze behind the scenes were putting out some feelers to kind of put a staff together, because obviously if Hugh Freeze is going to be the coach at a Power 5 school, he's going to have a better staff than the one that he has at Liberty. And of course, he'll have more resources at a Power 5 school than he would at Liberty to put that kind of staff together. And I'd heard that some of those calls had been made. So all I said yesterday, when there was a lot of buzz here that, hey, I think Lane Kiffin is staying. And you and I were talking, I don't know, every 6 minutes yesterday. And so, I mean, you heard the same thing. There was a lot of that buzz, and I put two and two together. And all I said was, if you made me guess right now, I guessed that Auburn's going to name Hugh Freeze. And maybe there's another candidate out there. Maybe it's James Franklin or Luke Fickle or, I don't know, Deion Sanders or somebody. But if it's not Lane Kiffin, I guess I'd bet on Hugh Freeze, but hell, I don't know. And if it's not Lane Kiffin, the faster I can quit ever having to think about the Auburn job, the better. My God. I mean, my answer to it, if it's not Lane Kiffin, is I don't care.
You mentioned Lane's going to have to do some things to win people back. You know, he did that and it's kind of how he got that status that we were talking about is, you know, here's a good example. I mean, we'll go through it real quick. You know, in 2021, Lane Kiffin led the Christmas tree lighting downtown, and you could clearly see he did not want to be there. He just sort of fumbled through it. But after that point, look, he wasn't Mr. Congeniality, but he kind of invested in the community, got some friends. When his daughter moved here, sort of got in her circle a little bit. He did a lot of things. He gave those quotes in the middle of the season about how much he needed Oxford as much as Oxford needed him and all those sort of different deals. He did do some PR things and just really live life. It wasn't even necessarily all PR. It was reality. To ingrain himself here, to make people happy, all those kind of stuff. It feels like he's got to do that, not necessarily with the town, but with the football program a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like now it's like, no, this is my program. This is what we're building here. Not even necessarily a team, but a year-to-year thing where it's a program situation. And I think that's the tone he's got to take is at some point, you know, because a lot of coaches do this. It's sure, it's portal and all this kind of things, but to get people back in, people want to root for Lane Kiffin. I understand you guys are pissed off right now. I know because look, Ole Miss blew a game to Mississippi State today. I mean, we're not going to do a ton of game minutia tonight, but Ole Miss should have had at least a 10-point lead at halftime and probably higher than that. Their red zone play calling was pathetic. They had play calling issues in a number of different ways. I thought their defense played incredibly hard, forced 3 turnovers, but the 3-man front was exposed by Mississippi State's run game at times. Special teams, State by far won in the return games, all that kind of stuff. So the point of that is he blew a game tonight. You guys are frustrated. You've been pissed off at him for a couple weeks, and that's justifiably so. I don't blame you. But there is an ability to get back. Frankly, you'll get a little back even playing a bowl game and winning it. I mean, people want to root for their football coach. They want to root for guys who are public and in the news and in positive ways and who have the potential to win a lot of games because that is one thing here too. Look, Lane Kiffin floundered at the end of this season from a lot of different directions, on the field and off the field both. But he is also a head coach that is capable of winning a lot of football games. Prior to these last 2 weeks, you know, his calling card was kind of he didn't lose games he was supposed to win. You know what I mean? And that's changed now. I mean, they had that huge winning streak and all those sorts of different things. But there is a potential here to make this okay pretty quickly. It's just going to take Lane to do some stuff. He's going to need Jimmy to tell him that. He's going to need some people around Ole Miss to tell him that and him actually follow through. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a process. But there's also a pretty good chance go ahead.
I would interrupt you for a minute because there are people around Lane that I think have kind of talked about Ole Miss in the way that, I mean, frankly, you know, 15, 20 years ago, a way that Ole Miss deserved to be talked about. You know, not particularly invested, kind of small time compared to the big boys. You know, I mean, this is the same program that a quarter century let a really good coach in Tommy Tuberville just walk away. I mean, just walk away. They didn't care. They weren't invested. They replaced him with David Cutcliffe, and you know, Cutcliffe was fine, and they replaced Cutcliffe with Ed Orgeron, who was completely unqualified. And they replaced Orgeron with the washed-up Houston Nutt, who was tired, and You know, I mean, they did the Matt Luke thing a few years ago. I mean, so frankly, I mean, it hadn't been that long ago that, I mean, they did some small-time things, and they deserved the reputation that they got. But if you're paying the coach $9 million and you're putting $10 million into NIL, well, are there programs that are doing more than that? Yes. Are there many of them? Nope, they're not. There's a hell of a lot of programs that aren't doing anything close to that. So at some point, the people around Lane have to go, hey, you are at a program that has the potential to be a big-time program. Embrace it. Like I said, you got to, I mean, we always do the silly dating analogies, right? You want the girl to marry you, and she says, well, I want you to get a better job. And so you get a better job. And she says, I want you to lose some weight. And so you lose the weight. She says, I want you to stop dipping. And so you stop dipping. And then she says, I want you to change the way you do your hair. And so you say, how do you want it? She shows you, and you go by God's salon and you get it done. At some point, you say, hey, when am I going to be enough? When am I going to be enough? And Lane's kind of gotten that reputation a little bit with Ole Miss people that, hey, there's just never enough. There's nothing that satisfies him. And they've grown weary of it. And I think he has to back off that. I think he has to start to embracing them back. Or else this probably doesn't have a lot of life left in it. If this is going to be a long-term thing, I think it's got to become more reciprocal. And I think that's what's missing.
Yeah, he gets to decide where this thing goes. There's plenty of things where there's plenty of ways to get this back. There's plenty of ways to fix all those different things. But yeah, he has to decide what he wants it to be right now. It's one of those spots where he's either going to do some of those things or he's going to win at a high level, one or the other. Or in a year or in however long, you and I are having a conversation on a podcast, probably very much like this, and we use this as that day that we put an asterisk beside. The asterisk is going beside it right now. Then we see what happens from here. We don't know what the answer to that is.
No question.
It's a splice point.
I mean, today I had someone tell me a couple of weeks ago he's at a crossroads, and boy, he's at a crossroads tonight. I mean, big time. And I don't know what. There's like multiple choices to go to. I mean, there's no reason to believe, based on anything that I've heard so far, that he doesn't remain Auburn's number one candidate. There's no reason to believe that. So, I mean, you have to at least consider that that's one of the paths. You have to consider that staying at Ole Miss and really embracing it as a path. And you have to consider that staying at Ole Miss and just kind of staying who you are and doing this again next year's a path. And of those three paths, the one that I would advise him not to take is the last one. That's a mistake. That would be the one that you run the risk of really, really kind of ruining your career a little bit. I don't think that's an option for him. I think he either has to let tonight be one big lie and take the Auburn job, or he has to fully embrace Ole Miss and make this a part of what he wants to do. And look, we've discounted the whole family thing, but maybe the family thing played a big role. Mm-hmm. And if it did, that makes him really human. I get it. And they ought to leak that out.
I mean, look, Landry's going into her last semester of high school. I mean, Knox clearly enjoys being around the program, likes being in Oxford.
Yeah.
It's all true.
And maybe that was the difference. A lot of people.
But as you said, it can't
decisions.
be. But like you said, it can't be that deal where it's, hey, okay, we're just going to stay one more year and get Landry out of school. No.
No, that won't work. No, I mean, like I said, I mean, on his part, that's a professional gamble. And if you're Ole Miss, we've already covered this ground. Tomorrow or whenever whenever he says, hey, I'm here, I want to sign the contract, I want to extend, let's make the announcement, let's do it. At that point, you got to say to him, great, you've done a wonderful job here. We want you to be here. Obviously, we're showing you that in financial terms. but we can't do this again.
Yeah.
This can't happen again. Not like this. You know, in 2 years, if you've won real big and the Chicago Bears come calling or the Los Angeles Chargers come calling or whatever the case may be, sure, get it. But you can't do this, certainly with another SEC rival. And look, there are Auburn fans in the stream, I'm sure. Here's reality. Perception's reality. Ole Miss doesn't view Auburn today as a giant step up. I mean, there'll be Ole Miss people that will not like what I'm about to say. But if Lane Kiffin could have landed the LSU job last year, a lot of people begrudgingly would have gone, yeah, I get it. They have resources, big time. It's a major program. It's a step up. When LSU's really rolling, it's hard for Ole Miss to keep up. Ole Miss, whether it should or shouldn't, it does not view Auburn in the same vein. Ole Miss, I think, will surrender a little bit of superiority, if you will, to Alabama, to LSU, probably to Georgia, obviously Georgia, maybe Florida, maybe Tennessee, but not Auburn. It doesn't. Maybe it should, but it doesn't. It's perception and reality. So I think internally people at Ole Miss look at Lane Kiffin leaving for Auburn. It's kind of a real slap in the face. This isn't Lane Kiffin leaving for Texas or Lane Kiffin leaving for Ohio State or Lane Kiffin leaving for the Los Angeles Rams. This is Auburn. And they view it as a slap. Like I said, it's part of the reason this thing has had a tinge of animosity with the fan base. It's reality.
Did you see Tim Brando's rant?
I did not.
On Lane? I mean, I'm just mentioning this on the podcast because this is going to go up as a pod form tomorrow, and it's something we probably need to mention. So Tim Brando, who is from Louisiana, he has Ole Miss ties. His daughter went to Ole Miss. Stuart Mandel,
but he's an LSU guy more than anything.
Yeah, sure. Stuart Mandel had said something. I don't know what he said. And Tim Brando says this. This is a national media member, somebody who typically, Tim has some interesting college football opinions where he gets a little hot takey, but normally kind of likes being liked. He's typically one of the ones that is good sort of saying positive things about everybody. Good riddance if he leaves in the minds of most in Mississippi. There's a level of investment that matters. Ole Miss football, if the Lane Kiffin train doesn't get that, then get the hell out. Many is that in that fan base would welcome his exit. He and Sexton have made a mockery out of the last week. I sent my daughter to Ole Miss. She was and remains invested in all things Oxford. Once you've made that commitment, it's real. I sold our condo there, but we'll never rule out buying another. If Lane wants out, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. See ya. The Auburn football program, with much help from overzealous donors, whose names everyone knows, so won't bother repeating, have turned it into a three-ring circus. If Lane wants to be the ringmaster, hey, bud, go get you some. Simple as that. He tells somebody he's no one's guy when somebody said, aren't you more of an LSU guy? And then he says, I'll clarify before saying goodnight. Lane Kiffin's a hell of a coach, but he's made his approach public. I'm also aware of my position, but I'll always say what I see. Ole Miss football may need to step up money-wise, but Lane's cavalier attitude cost his team tonight. Period. End of story.
I mean, it's a little strong, and he said some things that I'd never say, but I get it. And look, I don't know Lane, but I like him. I mean, he's fun to cover. He's a smart guy. You ask a smart question, you get a smart answer. So from a media standpoint, there's nothing. I don't have any grudge at all. But I can see where fans look at Lane, and the cavalier's the right word. He's just sort of aloof and he's distant. And hey, look, we always said this: you can do all of those things as long as you're winning big, and you're good. But what happens when you don't win big? And 8-4, 4-4 is not winning big. The Music City Bowl is not winning big. And sure enough, when you don't win big, some of that stuff starts to get held against you. And when you don't win big, and whether it's your representation or whatever the case may be, lets another job become this public and this big of a talking point. 5 nights ago, nothing against Cole Kubelik and Justin Rogers and all those guys, Jordan Rogers, nothing against those guys. Tom Hart, nothing against those guys. I like those guys. I'm a big fan of Cole's. But 5 nights ago, they sat there at Reynolds Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville, Arkansas, at the second half of that game and talked about Lane Kiffin going to Auburn as if it were practically a done deal. Talked about what players would transfer. Well, of course Ole Miss fans didn't hear that and like it. Of course it pissed them off. In the middle of a blowout loss, and again, it was absolutely a blowout loss. In the middle of a blowout loss, they're having to listen to that? And no one does anything to refute it? And then on that story comes out on Monday night, and all that you get is kind of an emotional series of tweets. I mean, you know, at some point, sometimes you do have to think about the fans.
Mm-hmm. And then, kind of last thing here with you, I know you're probably home and just in a driveway or something, is
that's okay. I'm good.
In the radio interview right at the end, people are making something out of this. They closed the interview with, hey, let's go get ready for a bowl. It's a network broadcast, whatever. And Lane said something like, yeah, I guess so. And people took that a certain way. He was pissed off for losing a game, and he wasn't worried about whether they were going to Texas or Las Vegas or the Music City Bowl. That was the point there. It had zero indication of anything other than pissed off.
Yes, he's hyper-competitive, and he's pissed off. The truth is he's still pissed off about the Alabama game. You want the truth? He's still pissed off about the Alabama game a month later. There's a coaching lesson for him in that you tell kids the 24-hour rule, and he's had a hard time enforcing that on himself. And I think he would admit that. But no, I read nothing into that. That was him without even having a minute to kind of digest what had just happened. He said in the press conference he never thought they'd lose this game. Even as the game was unfolding, he just thought they were going to win. Mm-hmm. And they didn't. And he gave credit to Mississippi State. He gave credit to Zach Arnett and said, hey, he called a super aggressive game. He kind of made a joke about, you know, there's rumors that was Mike Leach's last game and that he wondered if he said on the system with the other coaches on his headset to, you know, Arnett's calling this game like it's his last game, just letting it all go, lots of zero blitz, all that stuff. He was thinking about that when he said that. He's hyper competitive. You know, I don't think this stuff distracted him from getting ready. I think if there's a part that maybe he underestimated, did it distract his players? Yeah, and sure. Based on my text messages from parents and such, I don't think there's any doubt that it did.
Yeah.
And I think to pretend that it didn't is naive.
He probably has a lesson to come just in general of he kind of thinks the way he perceives and what he can block out or what he can handle is kind of what everybody can handle. You know what I mean? And I think there is a learning, hey, no, that's not necessarily how that works. That, you know, I mean, even the business thing. I mean, I think in some ways he thought he was telling his team, hey, chill out, we're fine. But his team walked out of those meetings going, hey, he said he's not leaving unless something, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't always pick up on some of those deals. He needs to get better at that. There's no doubt about that. So,
he has a different personality than other people. We've talked about this. He's not a conventional thinker.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I think he needs to do, and it's probably hard for someone like him who is kind of aloof and doesn't talk to a lot of people and doesn't open up to a lot of people, he probably needs to bring someone into his circle who is more of a conventional thinker, who can be like, hey, understand now, normal people don't think the way you're thinking. You need to be aware that this is sending a different kind of signal, that kind of thing. I mean, I do think he needs to expand his circle a little bit, to include people who aren't just fully yes men, who can say to him, no, this is a mistake. Hey, you need to address this. This is becoming a problem for you. Because I don't know that he really believed that this was a problem until it was too late and it had become quite a problem. And I'm saying all of this, again, under the assumption at 12:10 a.m. on Friday, November the 25th, under the assumption, based on what he's saying, that he's staying. So in the event that people listen to this and there's already been some breaking news, never mind.
Last thing, interesting question here, and I'll stay on for at least a few minutes to take a couple calls because there's so many of you guys on. Mark asked, does he need local media now? You always said he didn't. Does he now?
Oh, it's funny Mark asked that, because I was thinking about that as I was answering one of your other questions. I was wondering, do I even touch that, because it looks like it's self-serving. I don't know. He needs it now more than he's ever needed it before, if he needs it at all. I mean, look, if you're the guy going 8-4 into the Music City Bowl and 7-5, I mean, all of a sudden Dan Patrick and them aren't particularly interested in you. Look, I think it would help him to have some relationships with, and when I say relationship, I don't mean like go breaking bread and stuff. I don't mean that, but just like, I don't think Lane Kiffin knows anything about any of us, and that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. It's not an important thing to me, but like, I'm not particularly motivated to defend him. I mean, I do it because when I think he deserves it. I'm not out to attack him either. But there are people on the beat that I think are far more access driven, that they're not motivated whatsoever to try to put anything in context.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the truth is, here's the truth. And the Auburn people on our beat on our stream won't understand this. Most of us in the media, I think as this story developed, we were like, hey, cool. I mean, we're going to get a coaching search. We're going to kind of get out from under having to cover this in the way that we do, where the access is pretty limited. And, you can't, there is no interpersonal relationship at all. There's an inability to get him on a text to answer a simple question. There's an inability to ever like, hey, would you come on? We have a podcast. Other people have a podcast. I mean, Lane's been on our podcast one time, and it was kind of 7, 8, 9 awkward minutes. And we talked about fishing, and that was it. And he's been here for 3 years, and I'm not to beat our own drum, but we have a pretty damn successful podcast, and we have an audience. It's not about me or you. It's about the audience that we reach. And, he could reach those people, and maybe he reaches them anyway when he goes on Dan Patrick or Ron Russillo or whatever. I mean, obviously those podcasts are huge compared to ours, but maybe this will lead him to feel like he needs to branch out a little. I don't know. He's been so almost steadfast against that
he's not going to take a 180, but there are just small steps that if he would just do a little bit. Because the guy on the stream had a good point. He said, we talked about he wasn't going to do this stuff at Auburn, and he wasn't going to. It's also not accurate to go, we just anticipate him changing his spots at Ole Miss either. But there is a survival mechanism where he's got to improve at least a little bit right now. Because look, here's the deal too. That $10 million in the Grove Collective is there, but that only becomes annual if Lane Kiffin is really invested and helps kind of raise that money. Lane Kiffin's the face of the program. They've got to believe in Lane Kiffin.
Well, here's the part that I think full circle a little in the event that he's staying and that he's going to invest in it is, what made him more human this year was a couple of things. It was Landry moving here, and we got to see Lane Kiffin, the dad, a lot more than we did when he was first here. And the first year was not his fault. It was COVID. But we got to see Lane Kiffin, the dad. and you see him out there goofing around with Knox. And me as a dad with a boy that's a couple of years older than Knox, I totally can relate to it. And it makes him human. And him in the group chat with Landry and her high school friends is you know, it's cute. It's funny. People like that. People can relate to that. And so it's that human relatability that I think started for people to build a connection with him that went beyond, you know, offensive genius and clipboard thrower and all that stuff. And so I don't know, maybe he needs to look at that and go, hey, we're living in the South, man. This isn't New York City. You know, people here go a little slower, and we talk to each other and we wave on the street. I mean, you know how it is. You drive in your neighborhood and you wave at people. You don't even know who the hell they are. You just do it because that's what we do down here. And I think maybe he's got to embrace some of that. And that's probably a difficult thing to, like you said, he's 47, will be 48 in a few months to change your stripes, but probably would help him a little bit. And, you know, I think he can recover from this. I do. I don't think it's the end of the world. People at the end of the day want to cheer for him. They want to cheer for their team. I get mad at the Cubs every year and say, I'm not doing this anymore. And the next spring it rolls around and I'm watching 3.5 hours of a Tuesday afternoon game in Milwaukee. So, I mean, I get it. Fans are going to come back, but he's got to learn from this. He can't repeat it in the event that he's staying at Ole Miss. He can't do this again. It won't work. And it didn't work. It was a distraction. It worked against him. It worked against his team. And they went from 7-0, ranked number 7 in the country, and a lot of excitement, to 8-4, 4-4 in the SEC and the Music City Bowl. That is a disappointment. That is a bad finish. And some of it, like we said, I'm being repetitive at this point, so I'll stop. But some of this, not all of it, but some of this was self-inflicted. And when you self-inflict it, you need to evaluate, hey, how did this happen? And how do I prevent it from happening again? You know, and they lost to one team down the stretch that was head and shoulders better than them. That's Bama. And they lost at LSU, and that game got weird. But to go to Fayetteville and get blown out, and then to lose to Mississippi State. Look, that Texas A&M game was close.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they didn't go to College Station and blow the Aggies out of the water. I mean, there were some problems down the stretch. And you go back and look at when these Auburn rumors kind of started to percolate, and you wonder if there were distractions and if people on the staff were distracted. I mean, I can tell you there were support staff people, you know, families that were worried about stuff. People are human. They go home and people ask questions. Are we going to have to move? Are we going to be okay? Are we going to be able to get another job? Is he going to take us with him? Those are questions that people ask, and that detracts from the job at hand, which is finding a way to win football games.
Yeah. Well, we got plenty of time to continue to discuss what's next, what it looks like. Again, Ole Miss got roster things to do. They will play a bowl game, still monitoring everything with Auburn throughout the weekend as well. So I'm hanging on for a minute. I'm going to let Neil go. But we will have our normal week next week, and then kind of be on call this week should anything kind of go sideways. But I'm assuming you're going to be up for a few minutes still trying to settle down.
Yes. I'm going to even sit down and try to write something here in a minute, but feel free to call.
All right. Sounds good. Talk soon.
Okay.
Was Neil McCready giving a time there. Appreciate him kind of hanging in with us after what was a hellacious connectivity night that I really apologize about. I mean, it just went sideways. But I'm here for at least 2 minutes. Until I fall asleep or something. You guys know I go to bed at 8:30. But 662-259-8563 is the number. Again, that's a different number. So if you had it saved, it might even be Neil's number that we use in the Clark Ford studio. I'm not 100% sure. But it is there. 662-259-8563. I do think the Music City Bowl is a possibility. Yeah, I do. I think you're talking Music City. I think you're talking I mean, maybe even Vegas comes back into play. I think that's a possibility. Who's on the line?
Baker,
Baker, what's up?
how we doing?
I'm a little tired, but I'm all right. What's on your mind?
Oh, am I on, Chase?
You are.
Oh, cool, man. All right. I've stayed on through the connectivity issues. I just wanted to ask, why are we paying this guy 9-10 mil next year after what he's done to our program over the past 2 weeks? I mean, it is kind of just unbelievable how he's gone off on Twitter and just the immaturity and everything that we've put out for him and the way he's treating us back. And it's just pretty frustrating watching the past 2 weeks and how distracted our team probably was and unfocused. So just wanted to hear your take on that a little bit.
It's an interesting deal because I understand it, and I think it was a calculated thing in a couple different ways, and I could be completely wrong. This is just my opinion. It's a little source, but not its crazy source. I think that at that point, Ole Miss had won all those home games in a row. I think he believed in the program. I don't think Ole Miss was considering that it would bomb to this level because even one more win from a win-loss standpoint would be a different thing than we're talking about right now. Just if you beat State, even everybody's in a little better mood. You're 9-3 instead of 8-4. There's a big difference there. You're going to Florida for your bowl game almost assuredly. You win the Egg Bowl for the third straight year. You're kind of dominating the state from that situation. So you got that going on. At the time, they did not think this would be bungled or handled to the extent that it did. They didn't expect a Monday Twitter fight with John Sokoloff and Lane Kiffin. They didn't expect the reports to go crazy like they did in that way, where he stays, but it looks ugly for so many days where he loses capital with the fan base. And then three, I think there's part of Ole Miss that at that point, and I could be wrong, I think there's a part of Ole Miss that thought he was going to Auburn. And what you were doing was putting out a public term sheet to go, nope, nope, nope. For the next guy we hire, we're going to pay him $9 million. We are invested. We are in. You know what I mean? And we're ready to go get him. So in some ways, it's just sort of been the worst case scenario for Ole Miss throughout those three different factors that it played out. And I mean, I understand the thought of, hey, tear that thing up and start over, but it was that's a necessary deal that you were undertaking when you offered him that contract. They're not going to tear it up. They're going to continue to give him that money. Now, here's the deal though, that also, unless you really win big, that stops exactly where it is, and it keeps Ole Miss from having to really play this game next year.
Okay, yeah, no, I follow that. And then just two quick questions, and I'll hang up. Or really one. So, was Trigg suspended, and what was the deal with him not playing and being healthy?
Yeah, I mean, Lane. Again, I didn't listen to the press conference, so I don't know the exact quote. But yeah, he put that. I mean, he was healthy. He's been healthy for 3 or 4 weeks. Lane said it was a suspension inside the program. It was not related to injury at all. Yeah. So no, he's been healthy since
all right,
cool. Alabama. Yep. Thanks. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Galen.
Hey, Galen. What's up?
Man, not much. My biggest question here is, so like you and Neil were talking about earlier, let's say that Keith meets with Lane and Lane does in fact sign on to be the coach next year. And he says, hey, we can't go through this again, right? That's all the things he said. What is to stop Lane from just, all right, well, I've made this agree with Keith, and we're not going to do this again. And then towards the end of next season, hypothetically, let's say A&M fires Jimbo and Lane's name gets floated again, and he just does the same bullshit that we've all been listening to for the past 2 weeks, just all over again. Like, what can we do other than having a new coach that doesn't do this shit?
I mean, there's nothing to stop him. I mean, it's a free country. I mean, there's literally nothing whatsoever that completely just ends it. I think what you're doing is you're saying, hey, we're not going to play the game where we're going to give you the 9.5, or we're not going to panic. Because look, last year, Ole Miss, call it justified, call it whatever you want, they gave Lane, and it was deserved. He went to 10 wins. It was the first time they'd ever won 10 games in the regular season. They gave him a bigger contract when there was no school poaching him. No school actually had made him the number one or even maybe number two choice for their job at that point. So you paid more than you had to based off what his actual options were. And then this year, they did it early. So I think, if anything, you're just going, hey, we're not going to be reactionary. What the contract that we have, unless you're winning the national title, that's the contract you're going to have the next year too. If you find a job you want to take, have at it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, yeah,
Well,
you
man,
can't
I
stop
do,
them,
but
but you can point out that I'm not going to play the game.
Is offering him $9 million not reactionary to the Auburn thing? And at this point, losing to Arkansas, losing the state, does that not give? I mean, I don't know. You obviously you know better than I do. Does Auburn still want him?
Turn your device down real quick for me. I'm breaking up. It's a little loud.
I'm sorry. I'm still sitting in front of my TV.
Okay, you're fine.
We've offered to pay him $9.5 million since before all this happened. Since then, he's lost to Arkansas. He's lost the state.
Yep.
A, does Auburn still want him? B, does Ole Miss still need to pay him $9.5 million a year? I mean, and I'm not one of these like let him leave. Like I think I would love for him to stay, but I mean, as far as what are we doing? What are we doing?
No, I mean, again, it's been worst case scenario since that contract came in multiple ways. Like I said a second ago on the other call, I think they were doing a few things. I think they were putting out a big number to show what the next coach might look like. And then I also think that it was, hey, we trust this guy. We're rolling. We like where we are in the national conscience. And then it fell down. And then Grimes makes a good point. And we don't know the exact answer to this. He says the 9.6 is only a reaction. And it's actually ended up being 9 even. We were a little high. It's exactly 9. It was at exactly 9 million. It's only reactionary if it was a counter offer. There's nothing that says that there weren't some early numbers from Auburn floated even before that were higher. You know what I mean? I don't know. I can't guarantee that wasn't true. But no, I mean, Ole Miss is in a weird spot here because I think if they knew exactly how this thing plays out, they would not have done it to that level. But I think you're just going to have to eat it and then swear to yourself and swear to Lane that you're not going to do it moving forward.
Well, my question is, does Lane swear to Ole Miss, like, all right, well, I'll take your $9 million and I'm not going to flirt with another team and derail recruiting and team morale?
I mean, he can say it, but I mean, here's the deal.
This
until he goes through a year and doesn't do it, nobody's going to believe him. It's just reality.
No. Well, whatever. Pay me $9 million, Ole Miss. I promise you I will not flirt with other teams.
I understand. No, I
appreciate you, fellas.
Yep. Thank you. Who's on the line?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, that's not going to work. Who's on the line?
Hey, Chance. It's Justin from Jackson.
How you doing?
How you doing, brother? I just want to say first, happy birthday.
Thank you. On this Friday morning.
Happy
now
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Random question. Do you like your turkey boiled?
I can't say I've ever had a boiled one.
It's pretty good, especially when you mix in some rice.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, look, I got a hard-hitting question for you.
Uh-huh.
What was your POV on Justin Thomas's tweet about Thanksgiving food earlier?
I did not see this. I've been a little busy. What was it?
Well, 3 years ago, he was talking about how Thanksgiving food was overrated. And then he tweeted at Old Takes Exposed and tried to walk it back. So I'm just kind of confused.
Yeah, I have not seen that. I appreciate the call. I'll talk about it and answer no one. I appreciate it. Yeah, I did not. Hold on one second, caller. Turn your device down.
3 years ago, he was talking about how.
Hold on one second. Yeah, I did not see that. We've talked about that Thanksgiving overall is overrated. There's no doubt about that. It's holding a little too high of a standard. We still believe that, so I'll go with Justin. Who's on the line? Who are we talking to?
This is Scott in Tyler, Texas.
What's up, Scott?
Well, I just, I'm tired of all the Kardashian Kiffin stuff. It's just kind of wearing at this point. It's just old. And Brando was spot on tonight. It's just, at this point, it's just passe. Let's just get back to normalcy. The whole deal with him getting out of a Range Rover and him, tweeting with $5,000 Nike Dior's in a private jet. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Just freaking coach a football team and win the freaking Egg Bowl. This whole thing's just gotten out of hand and silly. And Brando was spot on tonight.
It really, really, really works up. It works if you're winning. It is the brand that completely works for Ole Miss, works in general if you're winning. As soon as you start losing and fall back below 9 wins, like anything below 9, and it looks like you're trying too hard. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like that's the cutoff.
Yeah,
if you go 9 wins or higher, it goes, oh, no, this is rolling and whatever. And then when you fall back to 8, 8-4 is not some ridiculously bad season. It's bad given relative to expectations. And it's pointed pointed out in the stream earlier by somebody. It's what Neil and I talk about all the time. There is a hellacious difference between paper losses at the first of the year when you go, hey, win, loss, 8-4, pretty good. And then you actually get in this where you're 7-0 and you go 8-4 and you lose to Mississippi State and you get blown out by Arkansas, and suddenly people are wanting, they're wanting throats at that point. So no, it's a different deal, and I agree with you. Brando was right about a lot of parts of that, and there is a certain thing
Chase,
where
Houston Nutt said they remember in November.
They do.
Our November sucked.
November sucked.
And we're going to give this guy this big raise after he just sucked in November. Ridiculous.
November 100% changes tenors of fan bases. That is 100% right. Because you either, if you lose, you either lost competitive or you had a bunch of wins and then kind of let the season slip away, one or the other.
And Chase, by the way, I would be remiss if I didn't thank you for writing such a great book. You killed it, and I know that wasn't just a one-year thing. You've followed that program for, at this point, well over a decade, and it wasn't just a book you sat down and write because we won a World Series. It was because, you were invested in that program, you followed that program, and you did a lot in building credibility and insight in that program. And it really showed in your writing. So good job, guy.
Appreciate that. I thank you.
Good night, and I guess we'll see what happens. But I'm kind of hanging off the Lane train at this point.
You're not the only one. No, I appreciate the call.
The Lane train is kind of going off the rails. And he made this bed, and now he's got to dig his stuff out of it.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good night.
Thank you.
Who's on the call?
James from Oxford.
Hey, what's up, James?
And so my question is related to the 4-year contract situation in Mississippi and whether that would make a difference in the whole coaching situation and the fact that our coaches poached every year because of that, and would a statutory change make that not an issue anymore?
There are two ways to look at it. There's a positive and a negative. There were legislators who were willing to turn your device down if you don't mind. Who were willing to change that, to work toward changing that, to make it where Mississippi did not have a max 4-year term limit for government employees. And the negative is that, say Auburn or LSU or whomever offers the coach $8 million for 10 years. Well, that's $80 million total dollars. Mississippi can't do that. Now, they can hide money behind the foundation. They can extend on a bunch of auto rollovers or however they do that. But the headline is not going to say 8 years. The headline is going to say 4 years. There's all sorts of deals from that standpoint that you cannot offer the same amount of guaranteed money. But here's the deal. And you saw last year with Ole Miss, you've seen in general, this 4-year contract also makes it where you don't go into these reactionary contracts like Mel Tucker and Jimbo Fisher and some of those coaches where it sort of saves you from yourself. So while I understand changing it for headlines and for people not to just use that in stories all the time, Ole Miss can manipulate it. They can do auto rollovers. They can do it from the foundation that's not
Right.
a
No,
government contract. And it also allows them, though, to kind of look up and go, hey, you're not doing this Jimbo stupid thing. I mean, I do understand why athletic directors
no,
like it.
I agree. I think it's dumb. I don't think it should change. The argument is, or the question is, would it make this situation non-exist?
No, because, I mean, if anything, I mean, Lane, I don't think salary in years ever was the reason why he was going to go to Auburn. I think when Lane was
I agree.
considering going
I
to
agree with that
Auburn,
also.
yeah, I think it had to do with what he perceived NIL to be, or at least the upper scale of what NIL could be. And frankly, in some ways, had just kind of become infatuated with what he'd seen as maybe a bigger program. I think that was a possibility. But no, I never thought that salary or even number of years to some extent was a contributing factor. I think it was a reason you could use. It would be, kind of an excuse, if you will. But that's kind of where that stopped, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, $3 million is a big difference in $5 million, but $9.5 million a whole lot different than $10 million, right?
Well, and it's all about to me. It's all about AAV. It's all about the number of the amount of millions in a year, because no coach thinks he's going to get fired, and every coach thinks he's going to get extended at the end of every season. So in some ways, that max deal is kind of irrelevant
So
unless you think you're getting
that
fired.
goes back to what would it be easier for Ole Miss or Mississippi State to prevent this situation by being able to at least create a contract that was longer than 4 years?
I mean, probably, but you're setting yourself up for disaster by doing that. You know what I mean?
But at least you have the opportunity is there.
Sure. I mean, I think so, but I don't know that it really changes much calculus. I think it's one of those deals that people say when they're looking for a reason to not do something. When it gets down to brass tacks, I don't think it makes a ton of difference. I think I kind of did for a long time, and I think I've changed my mind on it. I really do. So we'll see.
I don't
But,
know.
yeah.
I don't disagree. But at least it puts someone at the table.
I mean, I guess you don't.
It takes that issue off the table.
It does. I mean, I understand that.
So,
go ahead.
So, is there no reason for the Mississippi Senate, Mississippi Congress to not even make that an issue?
Well, I mean, they asked the athletic directors. The athletic director said they didn't want to change it.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. True.
And but why be different?
Yeah, I mean, that's the justification. I'm not saying you should or
but why
shouldn't,
be different?
I think they want to be safe from themselves. Where you can tell coaches sometimes, "Hey, look, we can't do that thing where we give you the same amount of money that Jimbo had or whatever, because that's stupid."
Yeah,
instead of saying, "Hey, it's dumb,"
you don't have to change the state. That's the same rule for every state employee.
Well, yeah, you do.
My dad it's the same contract for every single person that works for the state.
It is. Yep. That's
Why
true.
can't it be different just for the opportunity? So that's not an issue.
I'm just telling you that's the way they want it. But it's just the way they want it. I mean, I don't know. You're asking me questions that go in their heads. I don't know, and I'm not mad or anything. But I have no idea. But,
yeah, I'm not either. Just to take that issue off the table.
Yeah, it's been brought up.
Just to make it a non-issue.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I mean, I understand, but sorry. Who's on the call?
Matt Case.
Hey, what's up?
This is Rodney.
Hey, Rodney. I thought I recognized your voice.
Oh, man, it sucks tonight. Damn, I hate losing to them. I tell you what, I got a couple of guys. I can't do it physically, but I got a couple of guys I can help him pack tonight. I like that Brady coach and take them 2 timeouts on that 2-point conversion. I love it. But Chase, I mean, I appreciate Lane Kiffin. He's a good coach, but he's not as good as we're pumping him up. I mean, if Auburn wants to give him $12 million, go ahead. I wouldn't give him just about what we're giving him, about 8 wins. But I don't know. This has affected the team. There's no doubt about it.
It has.
Hell,
I mean, we've discussed with enough people around and with players to know that it absolutely has made a difference. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's been a distraction for at least 2 weeks.
What kind of bowl are we looking at? Music City?
You're in that big group of bowls now. That's the problem, is that there's just a big slush. It could be. I think Music City is a very, very likely destination. I think Vegas is possible. I think Texas is possible. I think you're probably having a hard time to get into a Florida bowl. I mean, I guess technically Gator is still alive. Somebody's got to go there. But I mean, some of the problem right now is, Ole Miss historically is a team that bowls want. They travel well, they eat, they drink, they do all those sorts of things. They spend money. It's great for the city, but they've got to be in a good mood. I don't know if this Ole Miss fan base is in a great mood. So that could push you down.
Now they're not in a good mood.
I know, that's what I'm saying. When it's a difference in it's like we said about when you lose is you start the year 1-4, then end up 8-4. That's a hell of a lot of difference between starting at 7-0 and ended up 8-4. You know what I mean?
Oh, big time, just big time difference. Just like the 2018, they lost 4 games, but they was awesome there at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Time they got together. Newton Nuts first year.
Yeah. Oh wait. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Way different on a. Yeah. That's true. 8-4. You're right. Same thing.
I mean, because they just once they got it going, they was one of the hotter teams in the country. I mean, I would have played anybody except maybe Florida. I think we woke them up that year after we beat them. But, anyway, I just hated it. I just hated it for the fellas on the team. I think Dart really come along there at the end of the year. I think he's doing better and better. We just got to get better receivers for him. I think that Wade fella's doing a hell of a job.
I thought Dart played pretty well tonight. I thought if Mingo doesn't drop that pass, it's a touchdown. I thought Heath had the big drop. Probably changes some dynamics of the thing there. You've scored, I guess 20 points or 20-something points in the first half at that time. Yeah, I thought Dart was more than fine tonight.
Man, Mississippi State did a good job against Judkins. They wouldn't have let him beat them. They was keying in on him big time.
Yeah, they played really well up front, and I did not think Ole Miss run block very well. I mean, frankly, whatever Judkins got, he got just by himself. It wasn't a lot of help at all at that time. So, yeah, I agree with that.
Well, I tell you what, though, if the Lane was to leave, I'm loving my first choice is Prime Time, and then Matt Rule, David Randall, people like that. Pickle maybe, but I don't care. Pickle, I hate him. Just get it going for me. But I know he's a good coach. But like you said, we ain't gonna put up with this junk every year. This is pitiful, man. I'm getting tired of this going on every year.
Yeah, I mean, there's work to do. I mean, again, it's not that he'll do the work. Nobody can guarantee he is. But I mean, I'm getting texts when we're doing the show. He's got to put some in, and I'm talking about, to frankly affect even the amount of money that's in collectives and that kind of thing. I mean, there's got to be a certain amount of buy-in back from him.
Right. So. And on this, I'm going to let you go. I know you're getting tired of stuff. On our uniforms, we just need to go all in. Let's get navy blue bottle, red bottle. Why can't we get red bottles and red helmets and powder blue bottles and powder blue wrapping tape and black shoes sometimes? I love just go all black.
Just swap it all out.
Yeah,
come to Oregon to the SEC. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just go all out. and that would bring in more recruits. I'm telling you, I'm not kidding on this too. Whenever Kiffin leaves, we need to look at Deion Sanders. I mean, long as he's going to bring in the players, he would bring in a bunch of players. He just got to have some good coordinators with him. And I just believe in that fella because he's a winner. He's going. People laugh at him. They laughed at him when he started coaching, but all he does is just keep winning, and he's just a winner.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess Kiffin's still here for a little while.
For the moment, yep.
We'll find out after this weekend.
Yep. Well, I appreciate it, Rodney. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Who's on the line?
Hello?
Yep.
Yes.
Turn your
Yes, I'm
device
here.
down,
I'm right here,
please.
sir. I'll turn it down right now. Turn it down.
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, am I good, sir?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
I'm just waiting for my moment right now. So someone's still talking right now.
No, I can hear you. What's up?
Oh yeah, no, I'm just trying to get into the debate of what's going on, at Ole Miss football.
Who's on the line?
Hey, Chase, it's Jarrett.
Hey, what's up, Jerry?
Oh, just ready for it to be 8 o'clock Saturday night.
I got to get through Friday and Saturday first before we get there.
Well, that's when Air Force plays.
Yeah,
So
I knew what you meant.
Okay. Yeah. You read my mind when he said the thing about what bowl game were we going to go to. The thought crossed my mind, like, man, wonder what our crowd's going to be like at a bowl game.
I think barring, look, there'll be a good crowd in Nashville because it's easy and it's close. If you're Ole Miss, just because of you want to avoid the Liberty Bowl, you don't want to get shoved down there just because it's close and whatnot. You don't want to do that. And 8-4, they shouldn't. That wouldn't be fair. To me, Nashville makes the most sense because it's fun, it's fine for people, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's not far away to where you're worried about, hey, is Ole Miss really going to send a ton of people to Vegas for a bowl game when they don't really want to, they're not in the same mood that they've been in. But I think Belton Bowl grinds right. I think Charlotte's a possibility. Sure. It's Deuce Mayo now, but whatever.
Yeah, but I probably would have, tried to make it work to get down to Florida for a bowl game, and I probably wouldn't go to Nashville way,
There's just a lot of Ole Miss fans in Nashville.
Yeah, definitely. So I got a football gods question for you.
Okay.
So your Keith Carter, football gods come down and says, okay, so either you get the choice of Kiffin goes to Auburn and you will get one of your top 3 choices for his replacement, or he stays. And that's information you have. What do you do?
If I'm Keith, or just in general?
If you're Keith, or if you're you, what do you think the right choice is in that scenario?
I think the fan base would say if they can get one of their couple top choices and somebody's elect in the program, I think they want Lane to go. That's what's been fairly amazing about this entire story this week is that a guy who had a Q rating in the 90s probably would lose out in a vote against just this hypothetical really good candidate that Ole Miss hires as its coach to start over. I think that if I did a message board thread or a thread in the stream right now, that's the way it would go, which is, it is. It's just fascinating given where it was and how much capital you can lose in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I'll phrase the question a different way then. So do you think they're right? Because I agree with you that that's the sentiment. Do you think that's an emotional overreaction because of the way the game went down and then obviously the stuff over the last couple of weeks? Or do you think that, maybe that Ole Miss would potentially be better off with, a Fickle, Rule, maybe Norvell type person instead of Kiffin? Obviously, you don't fire him because you can't pay his buyout, but if he were to decide to leave.
I don't have a lot of confidence in Lane changing a lot of his stripes. So I think that would be a possibility. Sure, yeah, I think I could see where that other thing makes more sense. I think if Lane invested, even not to a huge extent, I'm not saying hey go become the way that Freeze did at a point or Matt Luke or anything like that. That's not really what I'm saying, but just to some extent, then I would have a lot more of an argument of hey no, he brings a lot of things that not many other people brings, but I think he's got to do that work. I mean he's not just lost fans today. He's lost a lot of people who put some cash into this thing. I mean, it's going to take some time to get it back. It really is. So
Yeah,
we'll
and
see.
said something I was thinking about is that like I mean if he wants to the what we got in the NIL this week is amazing. If he wants to keep that, he needs to do what he needs to do.
Oh yeah, he's the face for that. It's him 100%. I agree with that. So
all right, man.
We'll
Hey,
yep.
dude, thanks. You and Neil have been total pros this week. Thanks for all the work, man. I know
I appreciate
you guys
it.
are. All right, be good, man. Talk to you later.
Go Falcons.
All right.
Who's on the line?
This is Caleb from Jackson.
Hey Caleb, what's up?
I'm glad you can hear me. I'm still driving back from the game. I just dropped a couple of my buddies off. But I will say one thing, this entire Kiffin saga, is that it really makes me appreciate Mike Bianco a lot more. And I know Mike flirted with LSU and interviewed job and everything, and I was actually more so upset at the time that he didn't get the LSU job just because of the way that all unfolded. But just the consistency and knowing that, he is dedicated to the program. He does love Ole Miss. That he's never really, other than the LSU situation, had no indication of leaving. And I'm not expecting Kiffin is to be the raw cheerleader for Ole Miss. I don't necessarily want that, but I do want there to be a level of professionality to where he can either sign a $9 million contract and admit that he interviewed for the Auburn job, or just, I don't know, just coach his team to victories and not – you could tell that the team has been going through the motions for the past couple of weeks.
Look, this comes down to one thing. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit on the show, is that it's Ole Miss has been kind of Kiffin you in a lot of ways, and it's worked. I understand why you're paying him to be that, but yeah, it's also time now to be, hey, I'm leading this Ole Miss football program. There's a difference, and I do think that's kind of where they're at. It's got to shift into this is not Lane's sort of show pony in the way that he increases his exposure. It's got to be he's the leader of this program moving forward. It's if you're Lane, you need to say my program at some point.
I agree, and I also think Ole Miss has risen to the level, and I'll give Lane credit for this. I mean, he's resurrected the program. I mean, we were in disarray after the Matt Luke era, but Ole Miss is at a point now where it's kind of level with the stardom that Lane Kiffin brings to the table. And at a certain point, Ole Miss kind of has leverage in this conversation, too, with Lane. It's not like, we're just beholden to Lane Kiffin eternally. Like, Ole Miss at a certain point, and I'm sure Keith does this in private conversations, is going to have to act, like we are a bigger player than we've been treated by Lane, by the national media. I know you've done a good job talking about how the media has been disingenuous, talking about Auburn's infrastructure, NIL-wise, they're building these new facilities, everything, and you're like, Ole Miss is doing this too. It's not like Auburn is just leaps and bounds ahead of Ole Miss, but I feel like the university kind of has to sell itself to Lane Kiffin in a sense. Neil made a really good point earlier about Lane being socially awkward, not really doing the whole people thing great. And I completely agreed with his three pathways. He can go to Auburn, just go, give Keith the opportunity to hire somebody else. We can move forward. Stay at Ole Miss, embrace the program, embrace it as your baby. And, this is my program, like you just said. But that third option, he can't do that. He cannot do this again next year. There has to be something. I agree it's a free country. I agree there's nothing you can literally, physically do to stop him. But Keith has to have that conversation and be like, Lane, where are you right now? Like, where's your head? Like, what do you want for the future of this program or for you? Like, where are we?
Mm-hmm. No, I think there's a real candid conversation between the two coming. 100%.
And I'm glad that Ole Miss is at a place with the $10 million of collective and being a top 10 salary paying job for a head coach, that it's not like Ole Miss is in a desperation attempt to beg Lane Kiffin, because if he walks, there will be credible, qualified, good candidates just eager to take the job.
It is as Neil said, is the most attractive the Ole Miss job has literally ever been right now.
And then you've got the whole, you can go to Ole Miss, go 8-4 or 9-3, and you're not on the hot seat. But these other big jobs like LSU, Ohio State, Alabama, I mean, you see Texas A&M's kind of going through the motions with Jimbo right now. You don't really have that freedom and that leverage within the program to do that. So, I mean, I'm not Kiffin's taking Ole Miss for granted. I mean, I think he is to a certain extent. But Ole Miss does have a lot to offer. And I hope going into next season, if Kiffin does remain the head coach, I hope it is made known Ole Miss will not accept this kind of behavior.
I do think that's a message that will be sent, but again, you can't stop it. So it's really fascinating. I mean, if Kiffin ends up staying as he said today, we'll put it that way. I'm as fascinated about the next few months as I have been at any point. 100%.
Well, thank you, Chase. Thank you for all you do, man. Great job. You have a good night, buddy.
Hey, thanks. Be safe. Who's on the call?
This is Rob from Oxford.
Hey, Rob. What's up?
Oh, nothing, man. How you doing tonight?
I'm all right.
All right. I keep hearing callers ask about or mention the NIL money, and we raised $10 million, whatever it is. Stated he needed 7.5 or something like that. How sustainable do you think that is at a place like Ole Miss?
I mean, we don't know how sustainable it is at any. We don't know how sustainable it is at any place. We haven't had enough time to figure that out. I mean, there's going to be lots of places that probably have a hard time doing that exact thing, year over year. It's why the crowdfunding is at least somewhat important. I mean, you're not going to get $10 million out of that on those subscription models, but it does give you something. And then two, corporate sponsorships can be annual depending on what you kind of have to do. I mean, the answer is, look, no, 10 million it's very tough to do year over year over year. But I don't know that it differs from most programs around the country. I think everybody's kind of in the same boat at that point. I mean, Ole Miss blew away what was expected, even to get here. I mean, I think you're even high there. I think Kiffin asked for like 4.5, and they're at 10. So I mean, it's a huge hell of a difference that you're putting stuff together and you hope that it works and it builds momentum, and it's a process where people want to buy in because you're winning games and you're attracting talent and you can elevate your program. Ole Miss is a place where you're already seeing that, where they absolutely can elevate into that next tier and be more kind of perennial at that point.
Yeah, that input. I mean, I hate to disagree, but I just hope we can keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
no guarantee, but that's where everybody's at.
All right, appreciate your input, Chase.
No
Happy
problem.
Thanksgiving.
You too. Who's on the call?
Jacob Salmons. Jacob Salmons, Oxford.
How are you?
Doing great. I want to talk to Chase.
Yeah, you're here. What's up?
Hey, man. Hey, love Chase. Been a subscriber since I was a freshman.
Okay.
Just got to ask a quick question. You know what? Why is he so goddamn good at what he does? And you know what? Hey, why is Chase so goddamn good at what he does?
Who's on the call?
Hey, Chase. This is.
It's who?
It's Austin.
Oh, hey, Austin. All right, good. I saw your name in the thing, but I didn't know your number. So what's up?
Sorry about that, man. First off, you had a good Thanksgiving?
It's been a busy day, but it's all right. Got some Thanksgiving tomorrow, but yeah, had a good day today. It's all right.
Well, man, that's awesome. I'll be quick 'cause I know you're probably ready to get off the bed, but kind of like I am. But man, I was at the game tonight with my father, and I just kind of looked at him in the pregame, and me and him just kind of shared a moment. And I told him, I said, "Is it me or does this just feel weird? Something feels off." And he agreed, and a bunch of other people around the seat. And quick question for you, because were you at the game the first half like you were this whole week?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I left at halftime.
Okay, good. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you not see Kiffin out there on senior night? I didn't see him.
He was not there, and I didn't remember this from past seasons, but I was told that he has not done that any of his 3 years in Oxford.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
But that struck me as odd, and maybe that's just me like seeing things or maybe trying to read in the tea leaves too much. But it felt odd to me.
I thought it was odd, and I kind of checked a little bit, but yeah, apparently that's been a common practice for him the entire time. It was Boyce, Keith Carter, and Tom Luke, for anybody curious.
Cool. Yeah, and I had a couple friends text me be like, "That's really weird," and I agreed with them. Man, I said maybe it tells you all you need to know, but I mean, look, I want Lane Kiffin to come back. I do. I think most of us do. The last few weeks aside, I mean, he is good for our program, but at a point, and I love what Neil said a minute ago. At a certain point, you've done all you can do. And I'm of the opinion that we can't keep doing this for much longer. We can't, like on record, we can't do this again next season. We can't do it again 2 years from now. At some point, you have to love Ole Miss back.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really think, because I want him to succeed. I think we all do, but it feels like with Lane, there's just something there, and I don't know what it is, but I would. What advice, if you could give him any advice about how to heal? Because the last few days, a bunch of hurt feelings. And frankly, me and Dad were surprised that he got cheered in the C-Spire starting lineups tonight.
What that showed you, in all seriousness, and I hope that we continue to grow and gain people. And and our podcast reaches, thousands of people and more than the website does. But what that shows you is that there's lots of casual fans in the stadium that are not as in tune to what's going on day to day, like a lot of people who are on the boards and the podcast. You know what I mean? There's lots of people who just go to the game.
Right.
And maybe they saw Kiffin's Twitter on Monday, but frankly, they just think he turned down the Auburn job then, and there wasn't anything to even worry about.
Right, and
there's just lots of people not understood to that level. But no, look, it's an easy thing. Is Lane going to do this? I don't know. Again, it's hard to predict a lot of change from him. But no, you say, hey, look, it's my program. I'm going to fix it. That was embarrassing. We made some mistakes. We had some miscues, some missteps in how we managed the program. But it's my program. We've won a lot of games. We're going to be even better next year. We're going to hit the portal hard. We're going to do all this. Give to the collective. Let's go get kids. Hotty toddy. This isn't complicated. Right there, one paragraph, and at least 20% of the people would already be bought back in.
100%, I agree. I think we're overcomplicating something that's not very complicated.
It's not complicated. People want to invest. They want to believe in him. He's won a lot of games. Look, I get that. Look, the schedule was pretty soft this year, and I get he didn't win any of the big games. And there's an argument that, look, I think it's Kentucky given where they were at the moment, but there's a way to look at this thing where Vanderbilt's the best damn win of the year, even though they went 8-4.
Which is a sad commentary.
It's an interesting commentary. It's probably at A&M or Kentucky or whatever, but you understand my point. But it's still 8-4. He went 10-2, 8-4 in the regular season. That's 20-6. Not bad. So he's gonna get stuff fixed. It's whatever, but it's not like the program is not ending because of these last 2 weeks. They just need him to focus on the job. That's it.
100%, because
Yeah.
you can't tell me that it wasn't a distraction. And we're just saying. I just think there has to be a little bit of a come to meeting, for lack of a better term, with people in the athletic department about this whole situation, because I feel like if there's not, then it seems to repeat itself. But well, listen, I hope you guys have a good rest of your Thanksgiving tomorrow. I appreciate all you and Neil do. Appreciate you guys. I mean, seriously, really, really thankful for you
Absolutely.
guys. Have a good.
Have a good night. Thank you. Who's on the line?
It's Claire.
Claire, how are you?
Hello.
Yes.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm lovely. Just hanging in at 1:06 a.m.
Yep. Me.
What's on your mind?
I just want to tell you, great job tonight.
It started off a little shaky, a little worried there, but once it got going, yeah, it's been all right. I'm glad we ended up hanging on a little longer than I thought. I wasn't getting overly confident we'd get to 2 hours after all the technical difficulties.
Oh, well, I'm trying to watch you online or on TV, and it's Claire. You know, remember me?
Oh, I do. Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Anyways, I want to ask, everybody always says that test job is the best job, but I live there, and it's not really the best job.
You mean nationally, period?
Well, I mean, just in general, like, I think that Mississippi could be a really, really, really great job. Someone would appreciate it, which maybe is not Lane Kiffin. So what are we going to do if he stays? Do we get behind it?
He has to help that. I mean, yeah, Ole Miss people want to get behind him. But again, there's got to be a little work on his side at this point. Period. I don't know if he does nothing else differently. It can still kind of blow over to an extent, because if you get a good portal class together, if you recruit well, if you get into the next season, people want to win games. There's a certain amount of just time will bring people back in. But to get anywhere close to where he was prior to these last 3 weeks, it's gonna take him to do a little
Right.
work. 100%.
Yeah, but we can't just, I don't know, just comes off desperate. Like, we want to be good. Please be our coach. And we don't need that.
In what way, though? Because they offered the contract a couple weeks ago?
I don't know. I don't know what I think about it. I just think that we need to stay strong, and we need to know who we are. I mean, he is an awkward dude. You know? I think that he's a good football coach. I get it. I get that there's something there. But he can't just drag us along. We're like the forlorn girlfriend. We can't. We have to stand up. We have to be University of Mississippi, and we have to demand more. Do you not agree?
I think that is where it is headed to some extent, as much as you can do. Again, you can't stop him from interviewing with other people, but I do think there is a level of, hey, we're kind of tired of this, and if we're going to all get together and do this, we want you to be our coach, but there has to be a certain accountability that goes both ways for that.
Exactly. And also, maybe he helped to make people see that that you need to do more. You know what I mean? If you want to be big and talk big and be here and do whatever, then you have to show it. And I wish that he had done it in a different way.
And I think he's been trying to do that for 3 years, and I think he has done that in a lot of ways. I mean, because look, whatever his goal
give him
was
a lot
or
of credit.
wasn't, he helped raise Ole Miss's NIL efforts in those last 2 or 3 weeks frankly, without even necessarily meaning to there at some points. I mean, it's when he talked about, hey, no moral victories, all those kind of things. I mean, when he's been in his right mind and been focused, it's been all on, hey, I'm elevating the way this program not just acts, but thinks. No, we're at a
Actually,
different level.
yes, exactly. Wendy's been in his right mind. Yes, exactly. But, it needed that. And so we have to give him credit for that.
100%. No, I mean, yeah, he's not without merit at all. It's there. 100%.
I don't know.
They want to know in the thread what you've been drinking tonight.
Oh gosh, what have we been? Oh, we went to the Graduate,
Okay.
and we had old fashioned. I didn't ask for the specific type of bourbon. I don't know. It's normally there.
Was it made well? They muddled the fruit. Is it okay?
Yeah, nope, no fruit.
Okay.
I dealt with it because I was stressed out because of the game.
Okay. It's probably a little packed.
I roll with the punches, Chase.
I believe that. I'm with you. Did anybody ask you about your appearance
you
on the
have
show
to
last
let me
time?
on.
Well, you don't call enough. It's been a couple weeks.
But so my husband told me I didn't have enough material.
You always have enough material.
And I was like, I don't need
talk through it.
Well, I agree.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Married to me, but anyway, I think I do. So what you do?
Just call. It's all
Call
good. Yeah. Don't let him hold you down.
Right.
You're good. Call whenever.
Don't let him hold you down. Well, maybe sometimes. But okay. Anyway.
All right.
Hey, you did awesome tonight.
Thanks,
You
Claire.
did awesome. You're awesome. You have helped me through this whole lane thing, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Sounds good. Have a good night.
Okay. Bye.
Who's on the call?
Hey, it's JM from Oxford.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, just picked up my drunk ass wife and mother from the square.
Wife and mother.
My wife were out. They went to the game, or they swear I went to the game. So just check. Do you have any? What's Mallard Point up to? Is Mallard Point coming back?
They were reopening at some point. I think it's fairly soon. If not, I don't have a great date on that, or if it's 100% done. But yeah, they had done kind of a remodel, whatever, and we're coming back. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well,
Yeah.
have a good.
Yep. Thanks. Well, that kind of changed. Who's on the call?
Hey, Chase.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, how do you think we stop Harry Kane from attack tomorrow?
Do what?
How do you think we stop Harry Kane and England's attack tomorrow?
Yeah, you are talking to way the wrong person for that one. Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, if I watch it, we're all good, but I got no idea. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm joking.
It's not Soccer Corner.
All right, so I have two questions.
Okay.
So how do you Kiffin's grades this past affects recruiting, and how do you think this charades affect the assistant coaches are going to?
Recruiting wise, I mean, honestly, not a ton, because that's what's funny about that. I told Neil, and it's when he and I sort of disagreed at first. Kiffin publicly never said anything but that the report was wrong, even if it wasn't, and that he was not leaving, or at least gave connotations that led towards staying. I don't think recruiting was affected, maybe whatsoever. I think that he gave real answers, or he gave answers that protected that. Now, from an assistant standpoint, I think Tom's Lane has a hard time. He coaches in a very specific way. I mean, it takes a certain type to kind of work for him. I think that everything is not there from that standpoint. I think that that the pool might be a little smaller. Could this affect that? I don't know. I mean, it's more about job security. I mean, coaches want to go places they can get multi-year contracts. If they're willing to work with him with his management structure, I don't know that what just happened affected it because a lot of times you think, well, maybe he'll take him with me, or he'll do different things, or he's going to win. I mean, you're just trying to not see your career go down. You want to see it continue up. So it's more about just believing in him as a head coach. So assistants would probably be hit a little more than recruits, but I don't see any kind of major impact on either one of those. No.
I think if I was a kind of question, why can it? I mean, it just takes a Google search to show that he's been interested in all these jobs.
It would, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm sure people will try it, but at the same time, I mean, you're probably not going to hold it against him on the last year. And then this year, he's got his ability to get on Twitter and go, nope, see, I said the sources were wrong. And you know what I mean? I mean, you can offset that pretty easily kind of because of what he said, in my opinion.
I guess you could play that with all of like and everything.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it will work, I think.
Sure.
So.
All right, thank you. That's all.
No problem. It's the first time it has not been ringing nonstop since we started. Appreciate you guys. Already still 600 left on here at 1:16 a.m. One will come in the next couple seconds, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it. We're going about 2 hours and 10 minutes right now. Appreciate Neil for his time hanging in with me, and really thanks to you guys. I mean, you guys all came back at some point after that technical hell that we were under. I apologize for that. We will figure out a way to avoid that in the future. Have some backup plans, some backup stuff ready for that. But again, we're gonna change our whole system. We're gonna move the studio around. We've got some good stuff coming to make the product even better as we move forward. So really, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. You guys spending your time with us here on this Thanksgiving night. Mississippi State winning 24-22, but you hung in there. Really made it pretty cool. I appreciate the time for tonight and all of our support. I mean, it is Thanksgiving, and not to get sentimental or anything, but you guys make this happen. You guys that are what allows us to do this. It's been great to watch it grow, and it's because of all you that show up every single week and through this crazy process that's been Ole Miss football each and every year. So look, normal show back on Monday if nothing goes weird. But Neil and I both have Thanksgiving tomorrow, so tomorrow afternoon we'll adjust and do whatever. But we are going to be kind of out of pocket with some Thanksgiving stuff in case Lane Kiffin goes to Auburn. And just by chance, just saying. We have content ready. We'll get to you as fast as possible. If anything crazy happens, we will set a time, get to you, and let it go from there. But that's kind of the setup. That's the schedule. Hope all of you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for this, and we will talk to you again very, very soon.